Welcome to Culture Climate, presented by STC. Company culture is complex, like trying to track down Sasquatch. We're here to dive into the belly of the beast. Join us for first-hand stories from leaders, along with transformative ideas and insights impacting organizations and people. Ready to climb it? Let the journey begin. All right. Welcome back to the Culture Climate Podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Brentz, and today is going to be a little different. As you see here, I am riding solo. I don't have anyone to my right, and that's on purpose because every now and then I think it's really important to reflect, right? We started this podcast at the beginning of this year, and we didn't really know where this would go. We just knew that we wanted to have great conversations with people and organizations that really believed in culture. And so really what the intent of today is to essentially do a reflection rerun and go through the first 11 episodes of our podcast and highlight some key insights that we want to take from theory to application. So many times you can have these great conversations. There's so many nuggets, and we want to extract some key insights that we feel we can really apply to our day-to-day lives, not only personally, but obviously professionally, and for our teams, for our cultures, for our environments. And so that's exactly what I'm going to do, or try to do the best I can from all the great wisdom that we have received from conversations in this room. And so that's what we're going to do. I love this quote to kind of kick it off from a Danish philosopher named Søren Kierkegaard. It says, "Life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards." I think about that because a lot of times it's great to reflect on our past and, look at what we've done right and what we've done wrong, what's worked, what's not worked. But really, we got to be excited about the future. We got to live forward. And so in order to do that, that's what we're doing here is I'm going to extract some key ideas and insights that I've gotten from leaders, and then how can we apply those lessons learned to move forward into the future. So we're going to start off with episode 1. Episode 1, we had our team, myself, John Wallet, and Daniel James, and we talked about why are we even starting this podcast.
So yeah, it's climate, CLIMB-IT, right? Like climate, but it's also a play on words with the word climate, like environment or nature or weather, right? Threw out a bunch of different ideas, and this one stuck because when you think about climbing something, it's this kind of long, arduous task. It's difficult, it's grueling, but when you get to the top, it's so worth it. Culture is one of those things where nobody can really define it, and so we thought that would be a great topic to allow our viewing audience to learn from all these different guests who have done it differently, but done it well.
Obviously, the title of our podcast is called Culture Climate. And really that is a play on words. As you look at the actual wording, climate, that is a climb-it. So think about climbing the mountain. You see the logo of our podcast is a beast, also known as Sasquatch. It's this formidable figure that is climbing up a mountain. And the idea there is twofold. One, Sasquatch, everyone's got different opinions, right? Is it real or not? Is it true? Is it a mythical figure or not? And that's the same with culture. Like, some people believe in it, some people don't. We take a stance on it that we believe that culture really drives an organization, right? Culture eats strategy for breakfast, as some people say. And but it's a climb. You got to climb this mountain that has peaks and valleys. You go through these seasons that are a struggle, that are tough. You go through other seasons where everything's firing on all cylinders. But the fact of the matter is that you got to climb this mountain. And that's true of life as well. And so we have not arrived. This is a journey. One of our core values at STC is enjoy the journey. And that's what we're trying to do. And we're just trying to bring in clients, partners, different leaders of organizations that have shared their own lessons learned. And we're trying to all grow in doing that. So it's not a one-size-fits-all formula. This is a unique and elusive type of concept with culture, but we're really trying to grow to new heights. We're trying to move forward, like I said at the beginning. And so, we talked about intentionality with culture. So, whether you know it or not, like you have a culture. Every single organization has a culture. So now it's, if you are aware of that, then how do you be intentional about forming a great culture, one in which people want to come into your environment and that you can all thrive? That takes intentionality. And so, really that's the point of the podcast, is like, what can we extract from the lessons learned so that we can apply it depending on your situation to your business model. So that's what we talked about in episode number 1. Really enjoyed kicking it off with our team here. Okay, going to number 2, we had our president and CEO, Scott Thomas, come in and talk to me.
The owner is the lid on the success sometimes. And so they'll stay in the seat of a manager, or even worse, a micromanager, and then they'll wonder why the company's not growing. It's because you're squandering the talent on your team. And they'll leave because they're not challenged, because you're blocking them.
Yeah.
So my job is keep moving forward.
And that was really special because Scott's had a unique journey in his personal life, but also in building STC. We've been in business now for 13 years. And so he was able to really talk about some of those beginning days at STC and how difficult it was wearing multiple hats and trying to get the right people on the bus to drive this thing forward. And he's been successful in that, but that didn't come without a cost or easy by any stretch of the imagination. He really talked about 3 main things that I want to highlight. He said leaders must continuously self-assess and adapt to new roles. So especially when you're a young and growing company, as you're trying to scale, you're going to have to wear many hats. And so that takes a lot of self-reflection on what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, and how can you put yourself in the best position to help grow the company. So I thought that was a great point. Number 2, he said, let competent team members lead, develop their skills, and turn them loose under the guidelines of your core values. So you have to know what you stand for and how you define winning. But once you find the people with those right intangibles that match your core values, let them go, let them run, and that's, he's allowed me to do that. He's allowed other members on our team to do that. And then finally, number 3, focus on those who love their work. Address those who don't, as they can hinder the overall team productivity and morale. We're really big. I know I'm really big, and Scott is really big on energy, the type of energy that you bring into an environment. And so, the whole philosophy is like, do you like your job or do you love your job? Now, there's elements that no one's going to necessarily like or love, but by loving, I mean that you can see yourself as part of the future. You can see yourself as part of the mission and vision of the organization. And if you can do that, then you can find how you love the organization. And that's what Scott and other leaders are looking for, people that love what they do. They bring a certain energy and enthusiasm and infectious energy to other people in the group. And that's that he's going for in order to help bring success and scalability to a business. So that was Scott. Great to have him in the Beat Lab, and I appreciate him just bringing this to fruition, this whole podcast and vision. So that was great to have him. Our first, moving on to the 3rd episode. This was our first guest that came outside of the organization of STC. So this was with Stokes McIntyre. I love his name because we were stoked to have him on the show. He's the CEO of a technology platform called MindForge. And really what MindForge does is it equips construction leaders with a technological tool to send out important messages to crews on job sites.
If we work every day as leaders to wake up and say, do the people that work with me in the field, do they have the skills they need? Do they have the knowledge they need? Do they have the experience they need? If you can focus on that, then you're preparing and you align those things with what you've defined as successful for your organization. You're more likely going to see that individual making decisions that are going to lead to success.
And so really, it was a great conversation because I got to talk to Stokes about his unique background. He's has a background in video production. So dealing with crews, actors on set, how to manage the personnel there. And then he talked about, transitioning from that to the construction world and some of the unique challenges and similarities that he found in there. Really a key insight that I wanted to take away from him was that you need to document your expectations of your culture. and ideally along with your team. So if you find great people, involve them in the idea of setting your values for your culture, and document them. Write them down, make sure that everyone is in alignment. And then once you have them written down, you have to hold people accountable. If you don't hold people accountable, then what are those words? They're just words on a paper or words on your company's walls at your office. But if they don't become accountable, then they're just words. And so he just expressed that need to document and then hold people accountable, and then leverage technology, leverage new innovative tools that help you amplify the message and spread the message to as many people as possible, in a capacity that is different than just email or in person. And that's where their platform comes into play, with getting important messages out to the masses so that people can be as safe as possible on job sites. So really enjoyed that episode with Stokes McIntyre. All right, moving on to episode number 4. It was entitled Favorite F Words. What is your favorite F word? I can think of some. For Benjamin Bratcher and Jared Ratjen of Bratjen Construction Company, they got 3 favorite F words. You know what they are? Well, I'll tell you. They're faith, family, and friendship.
What we do in our industry, you guys know, it's not easy. I mean, we're turning a piece of land into a building. We really started with faith. I mean, that was the foundation of everything that we wanted to do.
Friendship is this idea of, no, I'm not trying to use you to get what I want, but we're mutually invested trying to achieve, similar or common goals.
Not only did we want to take our clients and treat them like family, but we wanted to create a family culture within Bratjen. And we wanted to, live that out by taking care of our people the way you would take care of family.
I love how they're integrating their personal core values and what's important to them into the business. As they started their business back in 2020, which was a very unique time frame, they went all in on what they cared the most about, and that's their faith, their family, and their friendship. And that really sets the tone, how they develop relationships, how they view and integrate their personal lives with their professional lives. And so it was just really interesting hearing about how they came up with those core values and how they live them out. They talked about having a fund for any employee that has a child. It's just that's part of who they are. They give away a certain amount of money to help with the new member of the family for that employee. I mean, that's really living out your core values and making it a family environment. And then, when you think about relationships in the business context, a lot of times, it's very, there's a stark difference between business and personal, but instead of just having relationships as a core value, they put friendship, because they want to do business with people that it's deeper than just a business relationship. They can develop friendship with their partners, with their clients. Just thought that was a unique perspective. So just really enjoyed hearing their story and how they started from COVID in year 2020, have grown to be a successful general contractor in this Metroplex. All right, moving on to episode number 5. We entitled it Roofing Resilience, Navigating from Survival to Success. This was with Silberia Garcia Duran, and she has such a unique story because she doesn't come from the roofing industry. So she really had a tough part, a valley in her journey as a single mom and dealing with financial struggles. And she ultimately made a decision to start her own roofing company. And you think, like, well, how do you navigate that change if you have no experience, walking into a male dominated industry? And she has just taken that on and used that to her advantage as being a woman leader coming in. She talks a lot about having a nurturing spirit and really paying attention to details and developing relationships. As a woman and just her unique personality, she's just really latched on to that strength of hers and used it to her advantage to help grow her business and really just showcase her extreme care to her customers. And that has produced extreme success for her.
We want to have connection and we want to nurture relationships and we want to, nurture people.
Yeah.
So I think that for me has been an advantage as far as being a woman in the industry.
Sure.
And being able to create those relationships because I want to nurture that.
Yeah.
It's just in my natural, innate human being.
And so, you talk about when you're in a valley, like how do you get out? Well, like focus on what you're great at. What can you bring to the table that is a unique skill set, and let that shine. And that's exactly what Silberia has done in her life. She's also used it as a platform to encourage and empower so many other women. She talked about her network of other women that take out single moms and celebrate them and lift them up by giving them, financial gifts and things to help them get on their feet. So she, has not forgotten where she came from, and she wants to leverage her story to help other people. And it was just inspiring. She also talked about incorporating her own faith into her work, putting different Bible verses as a Christian woman, etching those into the roofs before they complete a job. I just thought that was so cool. And she was very open and transparent with letting, her clients know that she's going to have a roof, a roof that is built on faith, that is covering their house, their home, and how special that is to so many of her clients, whether they're Christian believers or not. So another example of integrating personal core values into their work. Love that conversation with Sil. Okay, moving on to number 6. This was at the International Roofing Expo of one of our roofing clients, Apple Roofing, and we talked to Will Stout and Brian Kincaid.
Success waits for literally no one.
Yeah.
And if you want it, you're going to have to take it because no one's going to give it to you. Those are words that my dad had said to me from a young age, and it's something I carry with me every day.
Something that we've learned going through all these steps and over the years, get very specific and define like your core principles, whatever they may be. Believe in them and run with that. Invest in your people.
Yeah.
Simple as that. And understand at the end of the day, they're human beings. Again, safety. We want everybody to go home safe at the end of the night. We want them to be happy. We want them to be able to do the things they want to do. But like he said, we're going to work hard. We're going to earn those privileges as well.
Absolutely.
This was a great conversation because Will started as a laborer on the front lines of working on the roofs. And he has grown to a project manager over there. So it shows just the upward trajectory and career development that they have at Apple Roofing to go from, a laborer to where he stands now. And that shows the type of culture that they have there. Brian Kincaid, as a sales manager over there, really talks about them investing in their people. So just like Will, giving them an opportunity to grow within the organization and giving them the training and the resources, the technology, the tools that they need to be successful. And something I really liked that Brian mentioned was that they set up with one of their teams a personal trip to go on a hiking trip. And I forgot where he said they went, I think somewhere in Colorado, but just how cool is that to be intentional with getting outside of the work environment with your work team to do something that is both challenging but fulfilling, and the type of relationships that build and that they'll never forget. I mean, how cool to be intentional with that. So that really stood out to me. And their core values, I love how they did the play on words with Apple Roofing. Well, their core are their core values, and it's quality, integrity, and service. And that word play is able to really help cement those core values in their team's mind. So really enjoyed that conversation in Las Vegas at the International Roofing Expo. Okay, moving on to number 7. Episode 7 was called Forging the Future. And this was with Rob Holmes, who is the co-founder and president of a company called Forge Now, which is a vocational trades training company based here in Dallas, Texas.
We really believe that this is an honorable career. It's honorable and it's important. It's important to the country. It's important to households and communities. We fix things. And when the electricity is out, when the heating and cooling is out, when the plumbing is out, and that family is leaving the house and they're going to stay with extended family or they're renting a hotel, while they're leaving, a tradesman is going in.
Yeah.
So that's where that first responder, that calling comes. And we really spend a lot of time trying to explain to the market, this is important. This is not just a job. This is a career, and it's important. And what you're doing really has impact.
Rob went to the United States Military Academy. He was an Army veteran, and that was my connection to him. And it's really unique that he was able to take some of the main tenets of the military training environment and apply it to something that is so needed in our society, into the skilled trades. These could be HVAC, electricians, plumbers, facility managers. These are the type of workers that they are trying to grow and train as they come out of the military. This is for underemployed individuals that are looking for new opportunities from where they currently are, and then also second chance opportunities. He talked about giving formerly incarcerated individuals second chances that are coming out of the jail system. And how cool is that? It really just highlights the significance of our vocational training. He talks about equipping them with uniforms. You're giving them the actual uniforms and tools to be successful. It talks about training. He talks about words have meanings. Ronald Reagan said that, and he mentioned that in the podcast. He talks about really looking at these tradesmen and women as first responders, because you think about culture on a larger context. Get outside of just the business environment. Think about our American society. If we don't have the tradesmen and women that can respond to needs when the lights go out, when the heating or the plumbing or the air conditioning goes out, that can be a full stop to the household and to the work environment. So if we don't have people in the future that can fix these issues, then how are we going to just function as a society? So really taking having that inward pride and instilling that in these trained individuals to be first responders is huge to the culture of Forge Now, but also the application to our society in America as large. So that was a great, important message given out by Rob Holmes in episode 7. All right, let's go to episode 8. This was called Push in Your Chair. Seems simple enough, right? But so many people don't necessarily push in their chair. And that's what the idea and the concept that Kevin Kirkwood and Hayden Lindley with Invictus Roofing wanted to discuss.
It's even down to when we have new members come on, they start looking around and going, these guys push their chairs in. Pushing the chair in is not going to be an issue when it, with on the bottom line. But it's a mentality thing. Yeah. All of a sudden, they're all taking the trash out. And it really started with our kids. Is if you do something halfway, then we talked about kind of a mindset and a trigger. Then your mind is triggered to do things halfway. But if you do everything you do, from pushing your chair in to the way you write an email to the way you are approaching a client, every little thing, if you do it with excellence, it's unnatural to do things, half-assed.
They're a young and growing company. They want to bring on the right people that have the right intangibles that are going to push in their chairs. And if they don't push in the chairs, they want to create the environment that over time, people are going to recognize the importance of that, of doing the little things right. And, something they talked about, a practical takeaway, is something called the Culture Index Assessment tool. This really helps pinpoint how people are just naturally, and then when they're in a work environment, how they're going to function. And so there's a lot of different words that people can choose that expresses who they are. And after a certain number of chosen words, it will spit out an assessment that really gives you an idea of how they operate, both independently without anyone around and in a work environment. And so if you haven't looked up the Culture Index Assessment, a couple of our other guests talked about that, but that's something how they assess their personnel and then put them in the right seats to be at their very best. It was just cool hearing about the story of the name. Invictus is a cool name. Well, what does it mean? In Latin, it means unconquerable. And this is really it's like a mantra for them to win. They brought up this idea of, what does Invictus mean to you? It means winning. Well, winning means a lot of things. And I think it starts with just doing the little things right, like pushing in your chair. And so it was just really cool to hear about their mantras, the manifesto of what Invictus it really is all about as they really get this thing rolling and continue to grow very fast in the Metroplex. So love that conversation with Kevin Kirkwood and Hayden. Okay, going to episode 9, and we called this generational growth. And this was the president of Astro Sheet Metal, which is from a 3rd-generation family business that was founded in 1967. And so a long lineage of different family members that have led this organization. And, I wanted to really learn more about that. They still have 8 members of the family that are working in the company.
Working with family members is really great most of the time. Nobody has your back like your family, and nobody can push your buttons like your family. But I'm fortunate that at our place, it's a lot more having each other's back than pushing buttons. So, it's a group of people I can rely on that are just as passionate about the company as I am. And we make a great team.
He talked about just the family members. Oftentimes people think there's a negative connotation of, oh man, you don't want to work with your family. That could be bad news. But, he flipped it on its head because, hey, this is a positive thing. They know you, they support you, they compliment you, and they know how to get under your skin. Let's not lose sight of that. I mean, they know how to push your buttons, but, it's setting the culture and really, how you work together. And, he talked about him and his dad and their grandfather and how they were really good about being able to turn on and off, just like the idea of being at work versus being at home. And I think you have to do that. I mean, my dad coached me in football, and I remember that he was very hard on me, just like any other player on the football field. But when we got off the field, he was able to turn it off and just be my dad. I always respected that and appreciated that. And it sounds like that's the same type of environment that Steve has built at Astro Sheet Metal. He talked about using technology and innovation and how important that is. I love this quote that he mentioned. He found this business card in his new office when they moved from Irving to Grand Prairie. He opened up the desk drawer and he found this quote on a card. It said, "You can't do today's work with yesterday's tools and be in business tomorrow with a profit." And I've seen that firsthand working with them as a client, how they've invested in technology that has made their environment not only safer, but more effective and efficient for their operations, and allowed them to really, to be craftsmen and women to bring the best value and expertise in their work to the table. And that's true for their work environment. So great episode there with Steve Paxton. All right, episode number 10. This was also with talking about family and business. This was a father and son duo, Gerald and Nathan Nichols from Amber Electric. Really enjoyed this, hopping in with Daniel James into the booth.
I think identifying and defining those core values are extremely helpful, because still, to be unclear is to be unkind.
Do they line up with our core values? Yeah. Do they line up with what we believe? We want to be a partner. We want them to be successful, and what can we do to help them be successful, and at different levels.
We talked about really their core values, which is just so important to them. We talked about taking core values from theory to application, and how they took the core values from a previous business owner, and when they took it on back in 2018, when they took on the leadership of the business, they wanted to make those core values more direct to their day-to-day, week-to-week decision making. And so they really have put in a process to make those core values more apparent to the whole team. And that's the lens through which they use to make decisions. They talked about, going back to the skilled trades, how important that is. They both work with local high schools, specifically Waxahachie, Texas, that has a skilled trades shop, and they help mentor students in that arena to help them develop the skill set that they need, and also give them opportunities to potentially come on board at Amber Electric. And I just think that's so cool that they invest their time there. They talked about the value of continual learning and empathy when it comes to mental health, which is such an important topic in the construction industry, with high rates of suicide and depression and anxiety, and how that's not just like a month-long thing. If they have a month-long initiative of mental health month, it's more than that. It's really it's all the time thing, and they've really showed the support there. And then they talked about just the importance of writing down your goals. Man, like that is something that is so like simple, but it doesn't make it easy, and you don't see people that do that. Check out these statistics. I just want to kind of riff on this real quick because I thought this was mind blowing. The Harvard Business Study found that these staggering statistics that 83% of respondents from the study had no goals. So 83%. Now this is a snapshot of society as a whole. It's not everybody, but it's a snapshot. 83% had no goals. 14% of respondents from this Harvard Business Study had plans, but had not written them down. So they had thought about them, but they hadn't actually written them down. But this study found that this group was 10 times more likely to succeed than those without any goals in mind. So they didn't even write them down, but they just had thoughts in their minds about it. They were 10 times more likely. However, 3% of respondents had written down their goals. They were 3 times more likely to succeed than the group that had some plan in mind. It just shows you, one, that like there's so many companies and people that are not writing down their goals. Write down your goals, review them, and you have exponentially more chances to achieve your dreams, your goals, where you want to be in your life. Just thought that was awesome. And they mentioned the importance of writing down their goals. So I wanted to go deeper there. Okay. And then finally, episode number 11. This was with my good friend, longtime brother in arms, Army football teammate, Ray Stith, who is a senior vice president at a company called Higher Echelon. And he really talked about his experience in the human relations department and how that can be a barometer of culture, but it does not set the tone. That really comes down to the leadership, and that could be formal and informal leaders within an organization. That it starts with us. It starts with you as an individual.
It's about first with you, right? It's about if you're a part of an organization, whether you are a leader of an organization or an individual. And by the way, like I believe that everyone in an organization has the ability to influence people, which is what leadership is all about.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily a title or your position as much as it is your influence on those around you. Right?
Yeah.
And so regardless of who you are, you have the ability to influence everybody around you. And so it starts with you.
And within that lens, he talked about a lot of different things. We talked about self-awareness. We talked about your ceiling of belief. And he talked about this thing that was fascinating called the results pyramid. It really starts at the foundation of the pyramid is about your experiences. What experiences are you creating or cultivating within your environment that are giving this tone to the organization to grow from your experiences? If you have enough experiences, ideally positive, then that's going to set your belief system and how you think and operate, which is going to affect the actions that you take as you go up this pyramid that align with ultimately your results. Because if you have the experiences and the beliefs and the actions, then you should have the results. Now, it's important to identify what results you want before you start this whole exercise. But if you set those foundations of this result pyramid, then you're going to have more of a trajectory to go in that direction to achieve your results. And so I really enjoyed going more in detail with that. He also talked about the importance of self-reflection, which is what we're doing right here, right now. He wrote a book called Self-Reflect to Self-Correct. And he talked about the importance of self-awareness and that critical skill set in order to help be adaptable and flexible to get to where you need to be. And in order to do that, it starts with you, to set those experiences, to have those beliefs, to take those actions to get to where you want to go. So it was such an honor and a privilege to jump in the booth with my longtime friend, Ray Stith. So there you have it. Those are my reflection reruns from our past 11 episodes. Pretty crazy. We're in double digits, and we're just getting started. So thankful for all those that have been on the journey with us as we climb this mountain to learn more about culture and what can be the best tools and resources and insights to help us get up that mountain. And we're going to continue this thing. So stick with us. Send us questions, send us your thoughts, and we look forward to having so many more great conversations and episodes here at the Culture Climate Podcast. So with that, keep climbing. We'll talk to you soon.